It's March 6th here in Seoul, and I'm Kim Dami. We begin with the stories making the headlines at this hour, starting with U.S. tariff pressure on South Korea. U.S. President Donald Trump is now accusing Seoul of having an average tariff that is 4 times higher than Washington's tariff. South Korea's national security advisor is in Washington, D.C. for what he anticipates as a good outcome from talks with U.S. officials on tariff and trade issues. The Trump administration has decided to give automakers a 1-month exemption from the newly slapped tariffs on Canada and Mexico, a move seen as a protection for its local auto industry. Consumer prices here in the country rose at a 2% level for the second straight month in February, as a weaker local currency pushes up import prices. South Korea is actively keeping watch on the second Trump administration's careless tariff policy. National Security Advisor Shin Won-sik is now in Washington, D.C. for a win-win trade talks with U.S. officials. Our Lee Seung-jae leads us this morning.
National Security Advisor Shin Won-sik arrived at Dulles International Airport on Wednesday, en route to Washington to hold talks with his U.S. counterpart, Mike Waltz, and other senior U.S. officials. He's expected to discuss bilateral cooperation in security, the economy, the shipbuilding industry, and more. Amid recent comments from U.S. President Donald Trump that South Korea's average tariff is 4 times higher than that of the U.S., trade and tariff issues could top the agenda. While the security official said it would be inappropriate to comment on Trump's remarks, he stressed that there are almost no tariffs between the two countries. Shin also expressed optimism, anticipating a good outcome, saying that the two allies seek a win-win result on the back of continued discussions between officials from the two countries. Responding to a question about whether he would discuss the possibility of President Trump engaging in direct talks with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, Shin said all North Korea-related issues will be discussed. He noted that during a recent G7 foreign ministerial meeting held in Munich, Seoul confirmed through working channels that the Trump administration has stressed the need to closely communicate with Seoul on North Korean issues, including the possibility of a Trump-Kim summit. On whether the Trump administration could seek a significant rise in South Korea's share of the cost for stationing U.S. troops in Korea, Shin said no discussions have taken place on the matter, but said that the two countries would smoothly entangle the issue based on the spirit of the long-standing alliance. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
And the security official's U.S. visit comes after Trump insisted in his congressional speech that South Korea's tariffs are 4 times higher than his country's. But South Korea's government says under the South Korea-U.S. FTA, that is not a valid statement. Our Kim Bo-kyung reports.
U.S. President Trump targeted some countries over what he called unfair trade practices, specifically including South Korea. This was during his first address to a joint session of Congress since his inauguration in January on Tuesday local time.
South Korea's average tariff is 4 times higher. Think of that, 4 times higher. And we give so much help militarily and in so many other ways to South Korea.
Trump did not give specific evidence of his assertion, and South Korea's trade ministry was quick to rebut this. According to the Trade Ministry, Washington and Seoul have eliminated tariffs on most goods under the Korea-U.S. Free Trade Agreement that took effect in 2012, making its average tariff rate on imports from the U.S. stand at 0.79% in 2024. This rate is set to drop further this year in accordance with an annual tariff reduction plan stipulated in the agreement. For reference, the ministry added that the tariff rate on imported manufactured goods from the U.S. is 0%. In terms of what Trump said, the ministry assumed he would have been referring to Korea's most favored nation treatment tariff, which stood at 13.4% in 2024. That is 4 times that of the U.S.'s 3.3%. But this rate applies to WTO member countries without bilateral agreements, and thus is not applied to goods imported from the U.S. Amid such a potential tug-of-war on tariff schemes, Trump said he aims to resurrect America's shipbuilding industry, planning to offer special tax incentives to bring the industry back to the U.S., while also putting pressure on South Korea to participate in a natural gas pipeline project in Alaska.
My administration is also working on a gigantic natural gas pipeline in Alaska, among the largest in the world, where Japan, South Korea, and other nations want to be our partner with investments of trillions of dollars each.
One expert says, however, that taking part in such projects would not be able to fully prevent Trump's reciprocal tariff scheme, and neither would the FTA be able to do it.
Trump threatened to impose a 25% tariff on Colombia and actually did on Canada and Mexico. All three countries have FTAs with the U.S., so having an FTA does not necessarily mean Korea can avoid such a measure.
김보경, Arirang News.
In the meantime, Trump has granted a one-month exemption to automakers from the 25% tariffs on Mexico and Canada as part of efforts to protect American industries from economic harm. Iuni has more.
The United States announced on Wednesday that it would temporarily exempt automobiles from the 25% tariffs on Mexico and Canada for 1 month. According to White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt during a briefing, the decision followed conversations between President Trump and the heads of the big three automakers, General Motors, Ford, and Stellantis.
But at the request of the companies associated with USMCA, the president is giving them an exemption for 1 month so they are not at an economic disadvantage.
The tariffs were implemented starting on March 4th local time, with failure to deal with the trafficking of drugs, particularly fentanyl, into the U.S. cited as a reason. Earlier the same day, President Trump also spoke with Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. In a social media post, Trump mentioned that he called Trudeau to discuss potential actions regarding the tariffs, and the call ended on a somewhat friendly note. He added that he told Trudeau that Canada's efforts to curb the flow of fentanyl were not enough. Canada, which had swiftly imposed 25% tariffs on $20 billion worth of U.S. imports in retaliation to the U.S. tariffs, took further action. On Wednesday, it officially filed a consultation request with the World Trade Organization, citing the unjustified U.S. tariffs on Canada. This means the disputing parties have 60 days to resolve the issue through consultations, and if no agreement is reached, they can request a ruling from a WTO panel. Lee Eun-hee, Arirang News.
The U.S. and Ukraine are organizing new working-level talks after U.S. President Donald Trump suspended military and intelligence support for Ukraine. Will the two sides be able to make up for the Trump-Zelensky bust-up last week? Let's turn to Professor Chanjin this morning. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us. In a letter from Zelensky to Trump, Zelensky said he is ready to come to the negotiating table as soon as possible to bring what he calls a lasting peace closer. Would you say Trump's threat to halt military aid and now intelligence supports worked here?
Yes, I think so. His threat to stop military aid put a lot of pressure on Ukraine. So if his goal is to push Ukraine into negotiating table, then yes, it worked a lot. But this does not mean Ukraine is negotiating because it fully agrees with Donald Trump. It may have no other choice. So Ukraine is now in a very difficult position. The United States has been Ukraine's biggest supporter, giving over $75 billion in military aid, including Javelin, Patriot missile, and Abrams tanks. So without this support, Ukraine is unable to defend itself. So recently, the U.S. aid has been slowed down, causing some shortages of important weapons. At the same time, Russia is getting stronger, increasing its troops and also producing more weapons. So with fewer options and more pressure on the battlefield and also from Donald Trump, Ukraine has no other options but to negotiate. And Donald Trump, instead of giving military support, he is focusing on economic deal, like the mineral agreement. And this could bring U.S. investment, but without stronger military protection. And in this situation, Ukraine may still be at the risk of a future Russian attack. So while stopping military aid, it worked. So it forced Ukraine to negotiate. However, it is still unclear whether this will lead to lasting and also real peace to Ukraine.
Well, that's why European nations are skeptical about. Now, are you saying Zelensky thinks signing a minerals deal is the best bet for his country for now?
Yes, Zelensky is in a difficult position now. So with the U.S. military aid stopped and limited help from Europe, he has few other choices. So his top goal is protect Ukraine's independence and get stronger security guarantee from the United States. But right now, the United States is focusing more on economic deal rather than military support. So signing the mineral deal may not be what Zelensky really wants. So, but it might be the only way to maintain the American participation and involvement in this war, and also to avoid the complete isolation. So this deal allows American companies to invest in Ukraine's natural resources, and Trump argues that this investment will stop Russia from attacking again in the future. But I think without clear security promise, this deal alone will not fully protect Ukraine. So this is the only option Ukraine Zelensky has right now, but I don't think it is the best option.
Well, Professor Che, I'd like to talk about how Ukrainians feel about this whole minerals deal. Zelensky says that nobody wants peace more than Ukrainians. Will Ukrainians be happy once a deal is secured then?
Okay, so the mineral deal may be necessary for Ukraine at this moment, but it's unlikely to make Ukrainians really happy. What Ukrainians really want is a real security, a stable future, and the total restoration of its independence. However, the current situation makes achieving these goals very difficult. So right now, Ukraine is under extreme pressure. The mineral deal may help Ukraine economy and also keep U.S. involvement, but it does not guarantee security or prevent future Russian attack. So many Ukrainians will see this as a compromise made out of necessity, not a true victory. For peace to be meaningful, the Ukrainians need more than economic deal. They need real protection and a clear plan to rebuild their country after the end of the war. So without that, this deal alone will not bring real satisfaction or peace of mind to the Ukrainian people.
Well, some reports say that the U.S. and Ukraine may sign the minerals deal in the coming week, next week. What next in line after the much debated minerals deal is sealed then? I mean, what moves will Trump make to bring peace to Ukraine?
If the mineral deal is finalized, Trump's next move will likely be pushing for a quick peace deal between Ukraine and Russia. But its focus seems to be on making a quick deal, rather than ensuring real and lasting peace. So Trump has already said he's open to direct talk with Vladimir Putin and claims that Russia is now ready to negotiate with the United States. So he might try to secure a ceasefire without forcing Russia to withdraw from its occupied land. And if Ukraine is pressured to accept a deal where Russia keeps its force in its occupied territory, Ukraine could remain at risk of a future Russian attack. And at the same time, Trump may continue reducing American military presence in Ukraine while telling European countries to take more responsibility. The Trump has already criticized Europe for not doing enough to protect Ukraine, even though European countries do not have enough military power to fully replace America. So it seems to me that Trump's goal is to ending the war in a way that benefits American economic interests without avoiding long-term security commitments. So this is truly Trump style. But the big question is whether this will bring real stability or just freeze the conflict, leaving Ukraine in a weaker position.
So you mentioned there'll be a peace signing process afterwards. Now, does that include Ukraine's involvement in the peacemaking talks?
I think Ukraine will probably invite it to peace talk, and they will have a chair in this process. But the main concern is whether Ukraine will have much influence during this negotiation process. So far, most negotiations have been between the United States and Russia, and Ukraine has been forced to accept decisions made by other great powers. So if the United States push for a quick ceasefire without protecting Ukraine's sovereignty and complete security, the peace talk could become a deal decided by others rather than a fair negotiation involving Ukraine. So Zelensky has always emphasized that Ukraine must be actively involved and no agreement can be accepted without its approval. However, the United States military aid stopped and limited help from Europe. Ukraine does not have much power to resist this pressure from the United States and also Russia. If peace talks happen under this condition, Russia may get more of what it wants from Ukraine. So while Ukraine will likely be at the table, I don't expect it will have a real say during the negotiation process. So it is more likely that Ukraine will be forced to accept terms decided by two great powers. I'm really sorry I cannot bring more positive news today.
Alrighty, Professor Choi, thank you so much for sharing your insight with us this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
In related news, a U.S. Defense Ministry official has confirmed the additional deployment of North Korean troops to Russia. According to a U.S.-funded news outlet, Radio Free Asia, on Thursday, the exact number of troops wasn't specified, but the official stated that they are intended to replace those killed on the front lines. On Wednesday, South Korea's National Intelligence Service also said that it's closely monitoring potential North Korea-Russia drone cooperation amid speculation that North Korean troops are being trained by Russia in drone operations and tactics. Consumer prices in South Korea remain high, with inflation in the 2% range for the second month straight. Data from Statistics Korea on Thursday showed that the country's consumer price index, a key gauge of inflation, rose 2% in February year-on-year. This is a slight decline compared to the 2.2% growth seen in January, following 3 consecutive months of rising inflation figures. While prices of fresh produce saw a decline for the first time since March 2022, the cost of living index, measuring 140 items often bought by consumers, rose by the largest amount since July last year. Exports of Korean food products, especially ramen and ready-made foods, have increased significantly over the past 10 years. According to the Korea Trade Statistics Promotion Institute's report on K-food export trends in the past 10 years released on Thursday, exports of Korean food items rose from $3.51 billion in 2015 to $7.02 billion in 2024. On average, exports of food products rose 8% annually during the same period. Now, by item, ramen was on top, with exports worth $1.36 billion, followed by ready-made food at $980 million, beverages at $940 million, and health food at $820 million. Now, by country, the U.S. was the top country importing Korean food items, followed by China and Japan. In Barcelona now, this year's MWC is not just for big firms to shine. It's also staged for startups to show off their innovative ideas and gain global recognition. Our Lee Soo-jin tells us more.
Small businesses are competing to make their mark in this dedicated space nestled within the world's largest mobile event. This is where innovation begins.
4 years from now is a startup event on the sidelines of the Mobile World Congress where inventors showcase their latest creations, some award-winning, some intriguing, all with the goal of making it to the main event 4 years from now.
And those award-winning startups generating buzz at the event include ones from South Korea. Dr. Presso, an AI-powered mental health app, is the only Korean startup nominated this year for MWC's Global Mobile Awards, often called the Oscars of the mobile industry. I tested its AI by pretending to feel down.
I don't know what's wrong and nothing seems to change. I'm starting to lose hope.
The technology quickly analyzed my voice, offering personalized recommendations about what I can do. Another South Korean startup, Hakak, was named a top 20 finalist at the 4 Years From Now Awards for its AI-powered platform, which provides customized responses based on sensitive data in industries like healthcare and insurance.
Our biggest challenge has been gaining global recognition. We hope to use this opportunity to find business opportunities abroad.
And as 4 Years From Now showcases cutting-edge startup innovations, it attracts industry leaders seeking promising startups for collaboration.
We're interested in startups with innovative AI technology. One of the biggest challenges that startups face is finding the right industry to apply their technology, and that's where big corporations like us come in.
One of the 15 startups SK Telecom is working with is Twat, an AI-powered visual assistance app that won Global Awards in 2022 and 2024. The app gives real-time voice descriptions for visually impaired users when they take a photo of their surroundings or objects.
A person's hand is visible on the monitor holding a cell phone, and English is written on the screen.
Another startup, Hudson AI, uses AI to provide dubbing that captures nuances like tone and emotion. The company, like the other startups, is also optimistic about the new opportunities and connections that 4 years from now will bring as they take their first steps toward the global market. Lee Soo-jin, Arirang News, Barcelona.
Good morning, I'm Yoon Se-young, and this is The World Now. The Trump administration has reportedly been holding secret negotiations with the Palestinian militant group Hamas in an effort to secure the release of American hostages held in Gaza. U.S. Special Envoy for Hostage Affairs Adam Boehler reportedly met with Hamas representatives in Doha, Qatar in recent weeks. However, it remains unclear who represented Hamas in these discussions. The United States has designated Hamas as a terrorist organization since 1997 and has long refrained from direct engagement. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office released a statement confirming that Israel has conveyed its stance on direct talks with Hamas to the United States, but did not provide further details. Meanwhile, Hamas has not responded to requests for comment on the reported negotiations. Over in Serbia, at least 3 lawmakers were injured on Tuesday when opposition politicians protesting against the government and expressing support for ongoing student-led demonstrations threw smoke bombs and let off tear gas. Parliament on the day was set to confirm Prime Minister Milos Vucevic's resignation and vote on the dismissal of Speaker Ana Brnabić. The scenes come as protesters in Serbia have shown discontent with the country's hardline president, Aleksandar Vučić, with allegations of corruption, which escalated after a railway station roof collapsed and killed 15 people last November. The Vučić administration has responded to the protest with a mix of crackdowns and concessions. Following the unrest, Brnabić declared that Serbia's parliament will not back down and condemned the lawmakers who disrupted the session, calling them terrorists. Indonesia is using cloud seeding technology to mitigate severe flooding in the capital Jakarta and surrounding areas. The heavy rains, which began on Monday local time, have left at least one person dead and forced thousands to evacuate. Officials warn that the downpours could continue until next Tuesday and have implemented precautionary measures to minimize further damage. One of those measures is cloud seeding, where salt or other chemicals are released into clouds to induce rainfall. Authorities are using cloud seeding to divert rain away from flood-affected areas or prevent the formation of heavier downpours.
After a chilly and gloomy stretch, it's finally time to welcome back the sunshine, at least for the western regions. But mornings are still on the chilly to freezing side for many parts of Korea. Those in cooler regions like Paju should feel the change, so please do dress accordingly before heading out. However, the western parts of Korea and Jeju need to be aware of ultrafine dust levels that could go up respectively from early in the day. It should not be too bad, but keep a face mask handy. Afternoon highs will be similar to slightly higher than yesterday, topping out at 10 degrees in Seoul, as well as other major cities this afternoon. But there could be spotty rain in the afternoon in some of the East Coast regions under cloudy skies. Speaking of rain, Jeju will see frequent rain for the next 5 days. The much-awaited spring is knocking on the door, and Korea is finally starting to feel it as temperatures keep climbing. We could have a high of 15 degrees Celsius by next Tuesday here in the capital.
That is all we have for this morning. New Day at Arirang will be back tomorrow at the same time, 10 a.m. Korea time. Thanks for watching.